Here's how I transformed my first selection from the paper. So the collection that I'm using, I bought it because it was super cheap. If you want to learn more about the collection and have a look at it, have a look at my first video for this month where I walk you through what's in here. You'll see why no one was purchasing it and why it was marked down so cheaply. So I'm going to try and bring in some other embellishments and add some different media, which will give some variety and interest to the layouts. Here's how I started to transform the collection. First, I started to sort through all of the papers, picking out the ones that I like the most, and then I've cut them down and tried to organize them by color and pattern in some cases, so it will make it a little bit of a quicker process to assemble the layouts. So with the papers, I played around with them, tried out using both sides, tried out what they might look like layered together before I made my selection. Let's look at layout number 1 and how I created it. Okay, so when I pulled my papers, I wanted to use this tropical one, and I have gone with a theme related topic in my scrapbook layout. So I've gone with trying to create a layout based on this very loud, bold pattern where we did a day trip to the zoo with my dad. So what I did was, because none of the other papers really worked that well with it, I looked and thought about what papers in the collection I could use that perhaps we could use for mats, and perhaps we could also use the B-sides. So for my first techniques I've used working with the collection is I've done one of the simplest techniques you can do, and I've thought about just using small amounts of the collection sparingly. So if you don't like the collection as a whole, you want to try and just use a few elements from it, such as a singled pattern paper, or you might find a small embellishment as part of the collection, or you might find you can create your own embellishments. This can help you incorporate the collection without overwhelming your project. Here's how I did it. Let's look at what I've created. I haven't actually put the photos in, so just pretend these white bits are the actual photos. I haven't quite printed them out yet. So here's my first page. It's a double page layout. What I've done is I used the B side of this paper as the main background, and then I cut a frame, which is why I've got this bit left, out of the tropical side. So I've pulled in through the frame all these gorgeous colors, which will probably relate to my photos. In my zoo photos there are bits of orange and red. Not sure about the pinky purple that's in here, but there's certainly lots of greens, and this type of environment is in the photos. Now, because it's so big and bold, I didn't want to use that as my background. I thought it's just way too much. So I fussy cut all these palm leaves. I also fussy cut out these hibiscus flowers, and I've used them on both pages. You can try using mixed media elements, including like paints, inks and stamps, to add interest and dimension to your layout. Here's what I did. Because I decided to use the B side as the main background, I then went in and I did some smooshing with Tim Holtz Oxide inks, and then on top of that I stenciled. So rather than it just being this plain green, it now looks like I've used a pattern paper as my background. Just to show you, for instance, I selected this marble print thinking I could mat my photos with that, which is also black on the back, but I use that side. And then I use this bone type of color here, solid background, from that hideous paper, which I really don't like. So instead of using the A side, I went with the B side. And you can incorporate stamping, which is something I did as well. I also thought about adding texture to the layout, and the way that I've chosen to do that is incorporating some 3D embellishments with my fussy cut embellishments. So I had this, I just might bring this up so you can see it. I had this wire, it's actually wire that is covered in dyed fibrous twine. And it just really fits in beautifully and adds another element to my clusters. Also, if you are doing like a trip to anywhere, it's a good idea to include ticket stubs or maps or any mementos from your trip. You might have picked up a brochure that you could create a pocket with your brochure in. Anything that's going to personalize it a bit more and link to your theme. For embellishments, if you don't have paper where you can fussy cut something out of, you could incorporate other types of embellishments. So you might have some ribbons or buttons or brads that you could do, which just add a touch of extra interest and dimension. For me, what I've added is some of these wood veneer leaves. Quite a cheap option, but quite effective. By using a variety of mixed media and embellishments, you can create a dynamic and visually interesting scrapbook layout that captures the essence of your trip. In my case, it's a trip to the zoo.